Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Dr. Lauren Tucker. I'm from the Special Education Department, and today I want to talk a little bit about technology for differentiated instruction. To share just some of the key elements here of what I'm discussing is that we're really focusing on teaching with the student in mind and not the content. So really our foundational understanding at which we're going at this is that students are diverse, that we have a responsibility for students to master important content, and that we really are in teaching, we're continually evolving our plans and we need to be flexible. One of my favorite quotes when it comes up regarding differentiated instruction is, what does the student need at this moment in order to be able to progress with this key content? And what do I need to do to make that happen? And often technology is the tool to allow us to make that happen. I'm going to separate the videos into 3 different parts. First, we'll be focusing on the content that you are teaching. The second video will talk about the process of learning that the students will go through and how they are learning the content. And the final video will talk about the product that they are producing to demonstrate their learning. So first, we'll start off with the content. And here we are. Think about and take a moment and think about the typical classroom content. Think about when you were going to K-12 and you were in school, how did your teachers primarily teach you information? Was it mainly through a textbook? Was it through a video? Or was it mainly visual? So did they have PowerPoints or were there lots of posters? And now I want you to reflect on what are some of the challenges with some of those presentations. Take a moment. When we think about textbooks, for some of our students who have difficulty with reading, students with IEPs, or students who are ELL, they really have a lot of difficulty with some of the language, and textbooks can be a true barrier to understanding content. Videos can be challenging for some of our students who might have visual or hearing impairments, and they might not be able to access some of the content through a visual. And if we're only talking about a visual, are some of our students who have low vision or vision challenges might have difficulty. And so what I'm going to look at and talk about today are some technology tools to provide multiple means of instruction and options when presenting content. So here, when it comes to providing access, I provided a list of some general tools to open up the accessibility for your lessons. The first thing I want to talk about is text-to-speech with electronic text. And what that is it's when the computer reads text out loud. So for any of you who might have an iPhone, if your iPhone speaks anything out loud to you, that's an example of text-to-speech. And for many of our students, it's very powerful to have that accommodation. If you're typing directions or if you have a PowerPoint as you're teaching, having the ability for students to listen to those assignment directions or listen to the question can be invaluable to reducing barriers. There are 3 options here. You can see I have Read and Write for Google, which is a free Chrome extension. In an iPad or an iPhone, there is automatic an accommodation called something Speak Selection, and there's Microsoft Immersive Reader. I'm going to show you 2 of those options, Read and Write for Google and Microsoft Immersive Reader. Both of these are great technology to be integrated into lessons to provide that differentiated instruction for some of our students who have difficulty accessing traditional printed text. So let's see what they look like. So here I have a Google Doc opened up, and I just have some Harry Potter text on here. I'm going to click on this purple Read and Write for Google puzzle piece up here. I have the free version, so you can see there's only a couple of icons that are bolded, but this is available for free for any student. So when I click at the beginning of my Google Doc and I click the play button.
How did Harry Potter change throughout the series? Harry Potter changed.
You can see that it highlights the sentence that it's reading and it's word by word, which really helps for a student if they have difficulty keeping track or they could kind of zone out. It can be very powerful. It reads not only Google Docs, but websites and also emails. So this can be a very powerful tool. The other tool I wanted to demonstrate is Microsoft Immersive Reader. If you're working in Microsoft Word or Microsoft Online or OneNote, it is built into many of those tools. So here I'm going to click Try It Out. And you can see the text pulls up and I can hit the play button.
Learning Tools Immersive Reader creates a reading experience that adds accessibility and comprehension for...
Pretty good voice on that one as well. If I click over here, there are text preferences so that if the student needs to, they can increase the text. They can also change the color contrast. I also have it highlighted where then different parts of speech are in different colors. You can keep that on or turn that off. It also will divide words into syllables. And it provides this line focus. So here you can see that it really simulates like a reading guider that you might have for some of the younger grades. So it really is a very flexible reading support for a student to access printed text. Another differentiated instruction tool that we might be doing for some of our students is adjusting text complexity. So if you're introducing a very complicated topic, for some of your students, you might want to provide alternative methods to learning that content. So maybe you're describing something, but it's in a simpler way, using simpler language. And a wide variety of students benefit from this accommodation. So here, very popular right now in school systems are Newsela or News ELA, where it provides current event stories in 3 different or 4 different lexile levels or reading levels. Very similar, another program that does this is Tween Tribune. I think of it as Pepsi and Coke, right? They're both 2 contents that do very similar things, but just different companies that produce them. Rewordify is a tool that is really powerful to then simplify the language that's utilized in a piece of text. And you see I have an arrow here. So here's an example where you have the original text here, or this is the simplified text. And if I hover over the word hate, the word loathe would appear. And I can also have it reversed so that they have the original word. And if I hover over it, then the simpler definition comes up. They have it inline. I find this is a little bit confusing, but then you also have this 2-column where they have the original text on one side and the simplified text on the other. So again, this can be a very powerful tool for you as the teacher in designing your lesson to then provide that modification for students who could need it. Another tool that does this is something called Snap and Read. And here's an example of the modified language that they utilize. And this is all done automatically, so it might not be perfect, but it's a great starting place for you. So you can see here before and here's the after. What also might be very powerful in your lessons is integrating visual supports. We know that that's a very impactful support for a student who might be having difficulties, and there's many different tools to help you with that. 2 specifically, there's Widget Online and Lesson Picks, both of which have free trials for you to try out. But here's an example of a visual where if we're doing a PE class and a student needs to throw a beanbag, and these are all of the different visuals where the expectations of what the students might be doing. So really helping many of our students to make the connection between the language or the words and the actions that are expected of them. The other option that picture supports really can provide is the modified content as well. Paul V. Sherlock Center for Disabilities has a wide array of modified text for students that are very classic titles. And I wanted to show you an example of Romeo and Juliet. So here, this is for free available. It is a modified and adapted version of Romeo and Juliet. So you can see that they have kind of the character family tree here. Other characters, and as I scroll down, they've taken the classic text and they've not only added picture support, but they've also simplified the language. So the entire book is modified to 42 pages. Again, something that this technology can really help empower students to engage with the content in a very meaningful way. And that ends the presentation on content. Don't forget to do the quiz check if you would like to make sure that you've engaged with the content appropriately.